one night, when everyone was in bed, there was a knock at the door.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Movie Scope with Hans. Today, we're diving into The Damned, the internationally co-produced folk horror film, written and directed by Thordur Palsson. It's Palsson's first feature film, and it's definitely got people talking. Is it a masterpiece, or does it falter under the weight of its own ambition? Let's break it down. The Damned is set in the 19th century in a remote Icelandic fishing village during an unforgiving winter. A shipwreck puts the village in a tough spot, forcing its residents to make a harrowing moral decision. Should they help the survivors of the wreck despite their already scarce resources, or leave them to perish? It's a folk horror film with a mix of historical drama and supernatural elements. The cinematography really captures the harsh beauty of Iceland, immersing you in the bleakness of the setting. The performances are also noteworthy, with Odessa Young delivering a standout role as the grieving widow at the center of the story. Joe Cole, whom many of you might recognize from Peaky Blinders, brings a solid performance as well. And let's not forget Rory McCann, who adds a rugged intensity to the cast. When I saw the trailer, I was hyped. It promised tension, atmosphere, and a chilling story. And for the most part, the film delivers on those fronts. The story is straightforward, with only a handful of characters to follow, which makes it easy to stay engaged. The supernatural undertones and the growing paranoia within the group keep you hooked. The moral dilemma, helping others versus self-preservation, adds depth to the plot and really resonates with the harsh realities of that era. But here's where things get tricky. The trailer set expectations for a certain kind of payoff that the movie doesn't entirely deliver. The tone and suspense were fantastic, but let's talk about that ending. We'll get there in the last part of this review. Now, let's talk about what worked. First off, the atmosphere is incredible. From the bleak, snowy landscapes to the cramped and dimly lit interiors, you can almost feel the cold seeping into your bones. The cinematography deserves a lot of credit for setting the tone and immersing the viewer in this harsh, unforgiving world. The sound design is another strong point. The ominous creaks, distant howls of the wind, and well-timed silence all contribute to a sense of dread. And yes, the jump scares, though sparing, are effective and don't feel cheap. As for the cast, Odessa Young is a revelation. She brings so much depth to her character, portraying grief, guilt, and fear with remarkable nuance. Joe Cole, who's been one of my favorites since his Peaky Blinders days, is reliably good here too. And Rory McCann, always a commanding presence, adds a layer of grit that complements the story's tension. The movie also deserves credit for its exploration of cultural superstitions and the supernatural. It's fascinating to see how fear and paranoia manifest when people are pushed to their limits, especially in a time when religion and folklore were so deeply intertwined. Now, for the not-so-great parts. While the story is compelling, the pacing can drag at times, especially in the middle. Some scenes feel unnecessarily drawn out, which slightly dampens the tension. And then there's the ending. Without spoiling too much just yet, let's just say it left me scratching my head. It's not that I don't appreciate an ambiguous or open-ended conclusion, but here it felt more like an abrupt left turn that didn't tie up the narrative threads we'd been following. It's the kind of ending that makes you go, wait, that's it? And not necessarily in a good way. All right, let's dive into that twist ending. Spoiler warning if you haven't seen the movie yet. In the final act, the supernatural elements take center stage. The widow, Odessa Young's character, begins to believe that the shipwreck survivors might have brought a curse upon the village. As tensions escalate, paranoia overtakes reason, and the group starts turning on each other. The twist comes when we learn that the real damned aren't the shipwreck survivors, but the villagers themselves, Their decision to abandon another vessel in distress, a choice rooted in fear and self-preservation, is what ultimately dooms them. The supernatural occurrences seem to symbolize their collective guilt and the weight of their moral failing. However, the ending leaves much open to interpretation. Did the curse come from the shipwreck? Or was it their own guilt manifesting in supernatural ways? The ambiguity is intriguing but also frustrating because it doesn't resolve many of the plot's key questions. Personally, I think the ending was aiming for a profound statement about morality and the consequences of our actions, but it didn't quite stick the landing. It's thought-provoking, sure, but it also feels incomplete. So, where does that leave us with The Damned? It's a promising debut from Thordur Palsson, with stunning visuals, strong performances, and a gripping premise. The movie does a great job capturing the harsh realities of 19th century life and weaving in elements of folklore and the supernatural. That said, the pacing issues and the divisive ending hold it back from being truly great. It's a solid effort, but it's not without its flaws. I'm giving The Damned a 6 out of 10. It's worth watching, especially if you're a fan of folk horror or atmospheric period pieces. But temper your expectations when it comes to the conclusion. That's all for today's review. What did you think of The Damned? Did the ending work for you? Or were you as puzzled as I was? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Moviescope with Hans for more reviews, deep dives, and discussions. See you next time.